the window. Genesis 8 reads, "Then it came about at the end of 40 days that Noah opened the window of the ark which he had made." Before we take a gander at the birds, let us first review the end of the 40 days and the window. As mentioned earlier, the 40 days are relative to the 10th month and the first day. These 40 days mark the disappearance and reappearance of the bright planet Noga, that is, the apparent retrograde motion of Venus. Venus disappears into the sunset horizon. And now, 40 days later, has reappeared on the sunrise horizon. We repeat this because this is a prominent, unique event on this particular day. The bright planet, called in Hebrew Noga, traversed from the Wav back into the constellation letter Hey. Hey having the sense of a vent or window. Recall at the start of the flood the constellation letters that spell out Ark or Teva floated atop the blue band of stars. Now on this day, all the letters are below the sunset horizon. Within the Teva, we had the Alef ox, clean animals, the Beth household, the Gimel camel, unclean animals, the Dalet door, and the Hey as a vent or window. The last letter of the ark is this vent or window. Could it be that the phrase "opened the window" et halon is referring to Venus reappearing at sunrise in the letter Hey? Window is prefixed with Alef Tav. Yet we must take note that here the word for window is halon, which starts with a chet and not a hey. Let's shift our gaze to the planet Mercury, which in Hebrew is Kokav Chama. This hot star is in the constellation letter Chet. Now Chet is the first letter for window in the narrative, et halon. It turns out there is a small, dark, window-like nebula that can be found just below the horizon, which resembles the shape of the letter Chet. If we travel to the southern regions of the Fertile Crescent, this nebula shape moves up above the horizon. The dense band of stars is more visible when you head south. This is particularly important, as those who read will know the latter narratives in this book take us on a wandering journey into these desert regions. These particularly dry climates afford a magnificent view of the night sky. Yet, we must save this for the context of those narratives, as it is outside this immediate scope. As we continue to observe, we find on this day that the moon is in the constellation Ayin, which we will look at in an upcoming chapter on the raven. The sun has left the region of Hey and is now in Wav, which we will explore through the dove. Do you remember those first primary grades when you learned to read the symbols around the edge of a clock and the months on the wall calendar? So here we are, now as adults, attempting to read an ancient calendar for the first time in millennia. We, like primary students, are bound to make mistakes, but this will not hinder us from making an attempt. This here contains another small spoiler for the next chapters. The symbols on the face of this celestial clock may have read something like Venus is in Hey, Noah at the vent or window of the ark. Mercury in Khet, the window itself. The moon in Ayin, Orav or raven. The sun in Wav, which is the first dove. These last two we will explain shortly. Several of the things we are about to observe relate to the alphabet on the ecliptic, which in turn is mirrored in the Milky Way. At this time of year, the long summer days hide the Milky Way below the horizon. This means that the observer would have had to memorize the patterns and shapes when the nights were longer. When the nights were long and dark, one could look ahead or back to this longest summer day, much like how we can turn the pages of our modern wall calendars, peeking forward and backward. This is possible because Earth's rotational axis is not significantly changed by its orbit around the Sun over the course of a year. At the time of summer solstice, matching letter constellations on the ecliptic to nebula in the Milky Way are the most sensitive to your particular latitude location. As well as which millennial year you are in. I have some guesses for time and location, but I'd prefer to gather more preliminary research before making suggestions.